serious corruption cases have not been investigated and prosecuted in South Africa for a number of years, and for very good reason. And we know that there have been deliberate attempts to ensure that capacities that should be investigating and prosecuting these cases were incapacitated in many ways. And so we are now trying to build these severely weakened institutions and trying to actually get to a point where these hundreds of cases, and maybe thousands of cases that require attention, can now be properly investigated and prosecuted, either in the directorate or in the Hawk space, together with the SCCU capacity in the NPA as well as AFU.
All right, the MPA head there lamenting the situation where cases are not being investigated, and we're carrying on with that conversation. Before I talk to you about this culture and how we can defeat it, let's just go to social media and see what people are saying there. Come in, what are the people saying there?
Well, thank you, JJ. Let's start off with a question that we got this evening from Twitter, from Tebogo here, saying, does the SIU investigate allegations based on newspapers' print stories on alleged corruption in SOEs or relating to any state institution? So just asking about if there are allegations in the media, will they investigate? Let's take a look at another question saying that, JJ, please ask Mr. Kganyago his views regarding Senzo Moyiwa and AfriForum, of course, referring to that investigation there. And let's take a look at the last tweet. For now, I'm asking, are you also investigating nepotism in the public sector? So, JJ, those are your questions for now. I know you've got a lot to get through, so it's back to you.
All right, thank you. There, Carmen. Let's just start with this one about, Senzo Moyiwa. I mean, but I think that the question, there is this whole issue of private prosecutions, right? Is this something that, SIU has expressed a view on, that if people feel that justice is not done, they can run to do public prosecutions?
I don't think it is our terrain to get into, because the issue of private prosecution is in the legislation. It is there. And it can only, from my understanding, happen when the state has declined to prosecute. Only then. You can't do that. Yeah. But this is not our terrain as the SIU. We don't deal with criminality.
But if you have an investigation, the NPA is not prosecuted, and somebody wants to pursue private prosecution, can they come to you to then get your investigators to be witnesses?
No. We are dealing with corruption, maladministration, and malfeasance. Our investigators will not go and investigate anything that has got to do with criminalities. That is why, when we are doing our investigation on corruption, and we might get evidence that says there has been criminality, then we immediately take that to the NPA to make sure that the NPA deal with it from there, because our people are not trained in the.
All right, and then there was a question about nepotism. Does the SIU investigate nepotism in the public sector? Looks like the big thing in the public sector is nepotism. Or would that be considered in the column of criminality, not civil?
Not necessarily. If that kind of nepotism is in the realm of maladministration, we do. For an example, we get given cases for or a proclamation where we look at how people were appointed. Like we've got some of the cases in the Northwest for the SABC, where we are looking at how people were appointed to position. Yeah. Because if those processes were not done, it falls within maladministration, and then we are able to then recommend to the organization that has got those issues to say, this thing was not done accordingly, let us set it aside, and then deal with the person who did that. Yeah. And many cases of, if that is the context that the person is asking around, then we can do it.
All right, then there was another question about SIU and allegations in the press. Obviously, there's so many allegations every week in the press and so on. Are there some cases that have landed on your lap because it was a a story that was broken in the media?
Definitely. We monitor those stories that are there in the media space. We can initiate ourselves based on that and say, this is something of interest to us. Can we do a preliminary investigation and check whether there is merit to this thing? And once we find that there is merit to it and something that we can investigate, we then do a proclamation that goes to the president.
So clearly media a big partner then in terms of exposing wrongdoing.
Definitely, they are a very big partner, and that is my wish that we continue to do that and make it even bigger. Because that way, it can also help the whistleblowers whom sometimes people think, no, maybe taking things through government department is better to do it through the
media.
Therefore, all of those we then put together and we can take it up and make sure that we follow it up to the end. Because
can the SIU therefore subpoena the media to provide evidence to your investigators? How does it work?
No, we don't want this kind of discussion about subpoenaing the media, whatever, but we would want to talk to a person who has got the information for us to be able to do the preliminary investigation.
Yeah.
Therefore, obviously it will be in the interest of the person whether they want to come and give us the information, because sometimes most of the whistleblowers are unavailable for us.
Yeah, to follow up and give you more
Therefore, it doesn't help. You might have sent it through to the line, but it doesn't help at all if you are not going to give us information, at least for us to start a preliminary investigation. Yes.
Now, just in terms of the culture, this thing I was talking about in terms of the culture of corruption, you know, how are we going to defeat this? Because it seems to me that the whole issue of bribery, etc., is so ingrained in the manner of conducting business in South Africa that we're only scratching the surface in terms of what we discover. So it's so endemic that it seems like where there's no bribery is now the exception, not the rule.
It is very important what you're saying, JJ, because one of the strategies that we're putting together is to deal with campaigns, anti-corruption campaigns. Because it doesn't help to wait for people to be corrupt first, and then we deal with them in terms of investigation.
Yeah.
And we are saying, working together with all the others, we need to go out there and make people understand what corruption is. Because sometimes people think a small thing is not corruption. Sometimes you benefit as an individual, but you're using the resources of your company. And a small thing like that, according to people, they don't think, Kinochia, whatever, that needed to be taken, maybe this glass, I needed something to drink, and I take it and I go home with it.
Yeah.
And people don't think there's anything wrong with that. Therefore, we will then have to start a campaign, go to schools, educate the children at the lower levels, and be able to tell them what corruption is, what it does. Because for us, the important part is to make sure that the public understand what the impact of this corruption is, so that they must stop idolizing people who steal. Because these are the same people who are in the same community,
yes,
who drive these expensive cars from the money that they have stolen from you, and you idolize them. These are the same people that sit with you in taverns and buy expensive alcohol with the money that they stole from you. And you think that they are the best thing that ever happened. And if you stop idolizing these people and isolate them and make sure that they understand that we don't appreciate what you're doing, we will expose you. And once the public out there understand what they are able to do, understand where they need to go to report these things, therefore it will start reducing, because it's not nice to just have increasing load of work at the SIU every day because of people that are corrupt.
But do you think that, and I'm going back to this question, that the track record, though, is not yet sent a message of consequence? I mean, in terms of people who have been jailed as a direct result of your investigations.
But that is going to change, especially when it comes to the civil side of things, because obviously the special tribunal is there to do that. And you're going to start seeing traction around most of these cases that they've been hovering around. And when people start seeing traction, because it doesn't necessarily mean once we have recovered the money, that is the end of it.
Yeah.
NPA can still take the portion of that and follow it up into criminality, and people end up in prison. But we will do what we're supposed to do, and we'll make sure. These 6 cases, for example, that are there, we want them to be speeded up. We've got 14 others that are lined up to go and to be given to the special tribunal, and they're big. When I was calculating, for example, with the ones that are there now, we are talking 2 billion rand already with the cases
to be
that
recovered.
Yeah, but also it must be put in context. When we talk 2 billion rand or 14.7, it is not the money that is going to be recovered. It is the value of the contracts.
I see.
Therefore, you need to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean we are going to recover all of that money.
2 billion.
Let's take a simple example. If the person who created the studio was paid, but you find that the process of appointing this contractor was wrong, the studio is there. Therefore, we have got to then make sure that we take the money that was worth the studio, and what remains, which was unlawful, we recover. Therefore, we might recover less. People need to understand, they mustn't just think when we say 14.7 billion, we mean this is the money that we need to because we have got to be just, they call it just and what?
Equitable.
Equitable. Just and equitable. Yeah.
Good. You're going to bring the boss when?
I will bring the boss to come and get into detail.
Before the end of the year?
Before the end of the year. I think let's do it before we close. I think before the 15th.
Before the 15th.
Let's say the first week of
December. I think so. But it sounds like, I mean, how long have you been there? You seem to have all the answers already, Kaizer. I mean, honestly.
I'm exactly 2 weeks last Friday.
No, man.
I started on the 1st of November. On Friday, I was only 2 weeks. But like I said to you in the beginning when we were talking about that, you must make it a serious thing to understand what you are doing. Because if you understand what you're doing, you will be able to navigate. And people will have confidence in you. Therefore, it was important for me to read every piece of document that came before me in the 2 weeks that I've been there. And in that 2 weeks, we also hosted a lot of people, units like ours, investigating units
from across the world,
from the Commonwealth and non-Commonwealth. They came here for a week. I was there dealing with that, where we're exchanging ideas and also best practices. And all of those things happened in these 2 weeks.
Wonderful. All the best, Kaizer.
Thank you very much.
All the best, man. And we'll see you when you bring the boss around to help us round off the year. But wishing you well in a very, very important work that you'll be doing.
Thank you very much, CJ.
All right. Kaizer Kganyago, veteran communicator, now at the helm there at the ISIU, helping them to communicate a good message. And indeed, I hope that message has sunk in, that corruption does not pay, and they'll be coming after you if you're busy stealing. Woe unto you, basically. So we are glad to be part of accentuating a message of that nature. Let's take a break now.